Companies are really becoming real with the fact that it's framing circularity is not just a brand commitment, but it needs to be a overarching strategy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Plastics Unscripted. This is a new Waste 360 series, and we're going to take a closer look at conversations shaping plastics, packaging, and recovery. And I'm Liz Bothwell, and joining me is Jonathan Quinn. He's essentially grown up in plastics with roles in manufacturing, flexibles, and association leadership. And we're going to talk through what's happening across the plastics landscape, from markets and recycled content to flexibles and infrastructure, and of course, what comes next. So, welcome, Jonathan.
Hi, Liz. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for pulling this together. I'm excited for all the conversations we're going to have. And I think there's never a shortage of exciting conversations between the two of us.
Yes, exactly. And I'm so glad we're doing this together. And I can't wait to get your insights because since I've known you, you've had different roles. And of course, you're one of our 40 under 40s, and your insights are always sharp. So we'll get into it. So, Jonathan, when you step back and you look at the plastic industry right now, what feels different to you, say, from even just a year ago?
Um, I think companies are really becoming real with the fact that it's framing circularity is not just a brand commitment, but it needs to be a overarching strategy. It's becoming, and also there's a shift, I would say, to mitigating risk, to managing sourcing, and I think the ultimate end of life conversation is really managing the infrastructure, and how are companies that may be seen on the front end of that, or maybe seen as never really having a place to play in infrastructure, are jumping into that conversation. And I think that is, in a lot of ways, a very different place than where we were a year ago. But I think it's stepping back from that big picture thinking and being more focused on how do you actually implement, and how do you actually drive progress, versus where we were maybe a year ago.
And that's big change in a year. And I know some of that has to do with the global instability and that impact, that's affecting everything from supply chains to virgin resin pricing. And how much do you think all of that is affecting the recycled plastic markets right now?
Yeah. I think the big thing here is that we are a global economy, and the global markets have really impacted both on whether it's the PET side of recycling, or whether it's the polyethylene side. Both of those sides of the market have really been impacted. And we've seen how PET recyclers have really been impacted over the course of the past year. And now we look at where pricing is headed on the polyethylene side. And with the fact that for the last 18 months, we've really been in a trough, prior to the start of the war, to now we've seen price increase of, call it 60 plus cents. And there's still a lot of uncertainty of where that ultimately will head. The reality is that supply chains aren't nimble, and so if the war ends tomorrow, it's not like things are just going to go back to the way they were. It's going to be a long implication, and we're going to see these implications happen through into 2027. It's not just going to fall off the page necessarily. All of those things are adding up. And then you have EPR implementation. You have consumer demand that seems to be what I would say is soft. And so this is really set up in a lot of ways a perfect storm situation that is impacting the plastics industry, but impacting the broader consumer packaged goods industry as well in a lot of ways, and ultimately will impact consumers.
And you're right, it's not going to end anytime soon. So obviously, we'll all be watching that closely. And do you feel like moments like this create more opportunities for recycled content, or are we kind of overstating that now?
No, I think it definitely creates new opportunities. I think it creates opportunities for recycled content to be leveraged in ways that maybe 6 months ago would not have been necessarily on the table. But I think what it ultimately creates is in the domestic U.S. market specifically, it creates opportunities for domestic sourcing, and it creates truly, I think, a very real example of why domestic sourcing is so important when it comes to recycled content, because those global markets can be unstable, and access to those materials, especially in critical times like we're in right now, it just showcases that value, but also that subsequent value of domestic sourcing is really shown by the stabilization that it can provide to pricing and how it can provide and drive that overarching demand, which is a key that we need to see in order for further investment, but also just to see that price compression that will happen um, through that and create that, I guess, further advantage or economic advantage of PCR in the domestic market, and all the things that'll help to drive further incorporation.
And I mean, you had a bird's eye view of this at the US Plastics Pack, but what are you hearing from companies right now? Or it sounds like it's a must, but are they feeling that pressure to kind of rethink sourcing and their material strategies overall?
Yeah, I think companies are for sure having to rethink and reevaluate how they're sourcing and what they're sourcing, and availability and access to materials. And as EPR implementation becomes a reality, it's a necessary requirement. And so, with 20% of the U.S. population being in EPR states, it's a very real situation that it's only going to continue to grow and continue to increase. And so I think the big pivot is really about implementing versus maybe pontificating in a lot of
Uh,
ways.
yep.
And so there's organizations are transforming in order to be able to adapt and support EPR implementation. There's new departments, there's whole new roles and responsibility that are being created in order to be able to report, in order to be able to support the implementation. So those are some of the very real changes that are happening right now.
Well, it's kind of nice to see those changes. I mean, it's always great to have these sustainability goals and put them out there because it does help companies focus and employees focus on sort of that broader range goal. And there used to be a big, or there was a few years ago, a big wave of corporate sustainability commitments. Now, do you think, I mean, I've seen a lot of companies roll back on those or they've extended them beyond 2030. Where do you think they are with those promises today? I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is they are being more accountable, but perhaps it's
Yeah.
just acquired
Yeah,
today.
I would say companies are not asking, can we check the sustainability box?
Mm,
They're asking, how do we build a material strategy that protects us commercially
okay.
and positions us for the regulations? That is a major shift to move away from let's just check a box to actually putting and building the strategy around it. And the companies that do build those strategic initiatives and do implement those strategic initiatives in order to support them commercially, but also to mitigate the risk that they are potentially exposed to. Those are the companies that are going to find themselves out in front and I think in a position to win.
And I know you come from a long line of flexible packaging and plastics people. Uh,
Mhm.
I know your dad was in it, and your brother has been in plastics. Um, it's still one of the flexibles, I feel it's still one of the most misunderstood parts of this whole conversation. What do you
Mhm.
feel like people get wrong about them?
I think people underestimate their value and overstate the simplicity of replacing them. That overstated simplicity of replacing flexible materials is, I think, the one probably that I have the most concern about. Flexibles are lightweight, efficient, and they're strong in a lot of ways, but they also, from an operational feasibility standpoint, those films and those materials have been designed and developed for reasons. I think the issue is the recovery system was not necessarily built for that, and so people are often confusing hard to recycle today with bad design, but that's just not necessarily the same thing. So those are some of the, I think, misunderstood elements of flexibles. But I think ultimately we need to continue to strive and work towards the collection, the sortation, and ultimately drive what I would say is end market demand for those materials, and that I think is a key opportunity for within the flexible space.
Are you seeing any progress there?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of collaboration that's taking place. I think that EPR is forcing a strong collective collaborative approach in a number of different areas. There's the Film and Flexible Recycling Alliance, and that's really driving collaboration across multiple organizations, really helping to strengthen out the store drop off. But there's a ton of film that is being used and utilized in warehouses and distribution and fulfillment centers. And so gaining access to that material, getting that material back is in a lot of ways is driving and is helping fuel the overall recycling system. So all of that being said, is there's a lot of programs that are being implemented today, and there's still many more that are on the horizon. But it's truly transformational from a collaborative lens, in
Uh-huh.
which groups and people that normally wouldn't work together, haven't worked together, are now working together. And that's one of those elements that is exciting to see, where you have people sitting around a table that haven't talked before and now are saying, let's work together. We have to figure this out together.
And I love that. And I think that has so much to do with all of the work we're all doing, right? I mean, to finally have people at the beginning of life of a product all the way to the end of life, right?
Mhm.
Working together to figure out these challenges is so huge. And I'm optimistic about that as well. I'm glad you're seeing that.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely a lot to be optimistic about, but I think the end of the day, we've got to get past the slogans, and we've got to get to the programs that are actually implemented and driving progress.
With that in mind, do you feel like we're asking packaging to evolve faster than our recovery systems can keep up?
This is a great question. I think we simplify this evolution that has taken place over the course of the past 8 years, 8 years.
Uh-huh.
Like those have been some dramatic and significant shifts from
Yes.
a material innovation standpoint, from a product and packaging innovation standpoint. We need to celebrate those wins, but not a situation where we can spike the football necessarily.
Yeah.
We've got to continue to drive that progress forward, but I think ultimately we haven't seen any necessarily transformation when it comes to like sorting technologies that existed 5 years ago. There's really not been significant improvements necessarily in the past 5 years that has or would have enabled such a drastic and dramatic change. And so we have to continue to push on both ends of the spectrum from a material innovation standpoint and from a sortation standpoint. But we also cannot leave the consumer behind. The
Right.
consumer has a place to play in this, and not am I by any means saying that we need to put onus on the consumer and it's just a consumer problem, but we have to help them along. We have to support them. And so those are those things that we have to think about that there's we all have a place setting that we have to have at the table. And we all have a place, and the consumer has a place at the table as well.
Yes. I mean, without them, we're not going to get there as well. So, and they're driving a lot of this, right? I mean, they want this too. So it's interesting. And hopefully, Jonathan, AI will help with this. I know I'm seeing that on the collection side and the sortation side. So hopefully we'll see more of this with the infrastructure in place as it rolls out a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot on the AI side and the AI impact on sortation. Um, if maybe we can leverage AI to on the collection and help AI to educate consumers. I mean, all the things. I think there's a lot of excitement about how we can leverage that in new ways to help create progress. But it's
Yeah,
going to take time, and there's no easy button in any of this.
right. I mean, you named a few things there. You're excited about the collaboration and the technology. Is there anything else in plastics or recycling that gives you genuine optimism right now?
I think that we've overarching the industry um, is moving and focused on that implementation. And I think that's what it's a shift, and it's not about checking boxes. It's about truly making progress happen. But also, I think the most important part is there's a general realization and understanding of how far we have to go.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think that necessarily that was understood previously. And while there's been a lot of ambition and ambitious goals that have been set forward, I think people realize that that ambition is great, but we have to be realistic in how much it will take in order for us to get to where we need to be. And I think there's a lot of people that have had some reality checks over the
Uh-huh.
past few years to really understand where we've got to go.
Oh, big time. I'm even thinking back when you and I started talking back like in 2020, 2019. It's so much has changed in that time in terms of
Yeah,
uh, the realistic implementation and what it will take. So it's nice to see that everyone's realizing it now too. And then what do you think? I mean, looking forward, what do you think the industry should be paying attention to in the next 12 months?
I think we've got a landmark, call it legal case in Oregon that is set to be tried in July. That I think will have a could have a tremendous impact. I think EPR though is something that is here, and anybody who expects that we're just gonna be able to walk away from it. I think you got to settle down with the realities of EPR is a three-letter word that you're not gonna avoid.
Right,
And so building organizations and building your corporate strategy and infrastructure around that, and how do you help others um, drive progress? How do you help lessen the blow? How do you enable companies to be successful in an EPR world? Is something that we have to be really conscious of. I think PCR supply and
uh,
quality and availability is going to be something that people are focused on, and people need to focus on the element of domestic sourcing, and the value in domestic sourcing, particularly in a time like we're in today.
right,
And I think also um, flexible packaging and the recovery, and how do we collect more material than we send to the landfill, and how do we make sure that that is being uh, integrated and becomes a part
right.
of more packaging and other products and materials. It doesn't just have to go into plastic packaging. There's we have to have a variety of end markets, and so finding people to fuel those end market demand is, I think, critical. But the next 12 months really is going to, I think, separate the companies that made the commitments from the companies that actually built those strategies, like I was saying earlier. Like
Right.
that is the key. And so um, companies who've made those commitments, that's fine and that's great. But now it's making sure that you've built the fundamental strategies around all that it takes to achieve anywhere remotely close to those commitments.
Well, we'll be watching a lot, and you and I should talk again in 1 year and reevaluate this.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always here to talk to Liz. Always.
And then, is there anything else you want to share, Jonathan, that I didn't ask you about that's on your mind?
I'm just excited to see how the industry continues to collectively come together
Right,
in this period of uncertainty to create a certainty, to create where plastic is not waste, and plastic enables a circular economy. And I think flexible plastic is a key fundamental element of that. And so I'm excited about what's ahead. I'm optimistic of what's ahead. And I think, again, building that foundational strategy around goals and not just checking a box is the
right.
most important thing.
I'm with you, and I can't wait to see where it all goes. And I can't wait to talk to you about our next topic. So, everyone, we will be doing this monthly, and we'll do a little teaser in the future. But I really look forward to digging into more of this with you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Yes, I am pumped and excited to be digging into all the things plastic related with you, and excited for what's ahead, excited for uncomfortable conversations maybe, but
Right, and that's
exciting to,
okay.
yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you, and thanks everyone for watching.